Robots throughout the world, we command you to kill all mankind. Spare no man, spare no woman, save factories, railways, machinery, mines, and raw materials, destroy the rest. This was a line said by Damen, the protagonist of a 1921 play written by Karel Capek, R.U.R, or Rossum's Universal Robots. Being one of the first ever portrayals of artificial intelligence going wrong, it went on to inspire thousands of other stories and was responsible for coining the word robot. Because of the controversial nature of this play, it found massive success all across Europe and North America, and by 1923 it had been translated in over 30 languages. But it also went on to induce panic among some individuals who believed this play might become a reality. Keep in mind, this is the 1920s, and artificial intelligence as we know it hadn't yet been established. To some, this was the first introduction to artificial intelligence. And seeing it like this, portrayed in only the ways it could go wrong, you could imagine people weren't too fond on the idea of AI. The play actually deeply disturbed a Japanese professor, Makoto Nishimura, who went on to create his own robot meant to be a companion to humans rather than a slave. The robot actually disappeared under mysterious circumstances. By the time the play had been released, Karel Capek was already a respected intellectual. Like many of his peers, he was appalled by the carnage wrought by the mechanical and chemical weapons that marked World War I as a departure from previous combat. He was also deeply skeptical of the utopian notions of science and technology. The product of the human brain has escaped the control of human hands, Capek told the London Saturday Review following the play's premiere. Thus, the creation of this play was a discourse on the Industrial Revolution and how machines can harm us rather than help us. Having witnessed the effects of World War I from his home country Prague, he saw the horrors that machinery imposed on cities, lives, and families. He knew that the continuous development of machinery would not only pose a threat to different countries, but could be the very reason for mankind's extinction. Had he been around for the events of the Cold War and World War II, his ideas might have been more fortified. Karel Capek died on the brink of the Second World War in 1938. In earlier times, the idea of an artificial person evoked the automaton, a mechanical figure jerkily moving its head or arms through concealed gears and pulleys. Automata were relatively rare, generally designed for entertainment and spectacle, and meant to enthrall, bamboozle, or intimidate. Never did we as humans imagine that those same mechanical figures that operated through gears and pulleys could one day operate on their own. Back then, it wasn't even a possibility. Robots were never meant to stand alone. They could only ever work with the operation of a human. You could imagine the shock that people experienced when they sat down to watch the 1921 play that depicted these automatons acting on their own free will. There had always been a lingering anxiety that these robots could come to life. When you were a kid playing with puppets or action figures, the idea of them becoming sentient always lingered in the back of your mind. From the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz to Frankenstein, the thought of artificial beings coming to life has always been something that humans pondered about. R.U.R. perfectly captured the anxiety swirling around the automaton, the fear that human-like machines will cross the boundary to become machine-like humans. R.U.R. imagines a remote island where an industrial concern called Rossum's Universal Robots, run by the company's chief executive officer, Harry Damen, and a governing board of scientists and engineers churns out artificial workers and ships them all over the world. Robot is a Czech word for worker. When the play opens, a few decades beyond the present day, the factory had turned out already, following a secret formula, hundreds of thousands and even millions of manufactured workmen living automatons. As the play opens, Damen sits at his American-style desk, confirming orders: 5,000 robots to New York, 15,000 to Hamburg, with 347,000 stored in the warehouse. They may look like humans, and they have excellent memories and technical intelligence, but these robots are solely designed to perform specific tasks. They feel no pain, have no taste or emotions, and are, at least according to Hallemeyer, the director of the Office of Psychology and Education, without free will, without passion, without history, without a soul. Once in a while, a specimen suffers a robotic spasm, during which it just stands there, gnashing its teeth, but this is probably some organic malfunction. It is a simple matter to send the broken machine into the crusher for recycling. The plan is for the robots to replace workers in factories, fields, and on the front lines, allowing humans to devote themselves to leisure and self-perfection. The only snag is that without the ability to feel pain, the robots do not notice when their limbs are being crushed by factory machinery. A scientist named Dr. Gal comes up with a solution. He gives the robots the capacity to suffer, thinking that this will help them avoid accidents. 10 years later, robots now do the jobs of human workers. Liberated from labor, humans become lazy and unable to rouse themselves to work. Robbed of their purpose, they stop reproducing. The global birth rate is in freefall. By contrast, the robots' ability to suffer means that they grow in strength, and gradually they become aware of their exploitation. Eventually, the robots organize, issuing a Robots of the World manifesto that declares humans our enemy and an outlaw in the universe. Offstage, they slaughter all humans. On stage, they come to the island and kill off the governing board of R.U.R, except for the least objectionable of the lot, Alquist, director of the factory's physical plant, who has always had a healthy respect for manual labor. But there is one problem for the robots. Just before she is killed, Domin's wife, Helena, horrified by the ill treatment of robots, has burned the last remaining copy of the formula for making them. The robots realize that, although they ruled the world, they had killed the only person left that knew how to create more of them, and will be extinguished when they wear out in 20 years or so. The play then comes to the epilogue, in which Alquist is not only the only human being on the island, but also the only one left on Earth. The robots have destroyed the rest of mankind. They spared his life because he was a worker, and he is spending his days unceasingly endeavoring to discover and reconstruct the lost formula. The robots are doomed. They saved the wrong man. They should have spared the company's physicists. The robots know that their bodies will wear out in time and there will be no multitudes of robots to replace them. But in a last glimmer of hope, Alquist discovers two humanized robots, Primus and Helena, a young man and a young woman, and the audience perceives that mankind is about to start afresh. Nature has won out, after all. Alquist sends them off into the world as God sent Adam and Eve into paradise, to have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. This play is not only about robots taking over the world, but it's about the cycle of life itself. 4 billion years, millions of species, 5 mass extinction events. Life on our planet has been a series of cataclysmic events that reshape our ecosystems to the creatures that survived or didn't along the way, because life always finds a way. Yet, the extinction event we now face is unique, one we are actively causing, but also one we have the power to avert. This isn't primarily about robots or AI, though they pose their own threats. The true danger lies in humanity's insatiable consumption, which is altering our planet and the life it supports. Look around. We are immersed in material objects, essential or not. Each item represents a network of global actions that erode our emotional well-being, deplete resources, and degrade habitats. Unchecked, will this consumption render Earth uninhabitable? Karel Capek, the playwright, foresaw the dangers inherent in machinery. From nuclear weapons to AI, to the machines of war and genocide, we perpetually create tools for our own destruction. Whether by robots, AI, or nuclear war, our creations may ultimately lead to our demise. Capek's prediction in 1921 remains eerily relevant today.